Well, good afternoon and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. Hi, guys. It's beer day. Yeah, it's Friday. What better day to do a show about beer, right? Okay, but it's about beer, but it's also about other things. I mean, are we going to miss beer? So I have a story to tell you. And hello, Kim. I'm trying the afternoon to see what happens. I'm usually moderating Nicole Sandler's show, and I would never do a show at 5 o'clock when she does because I'm with her. It's a politics show for the most part. So I figured on Friday she's had a little surgery, and here we are. All right. So what started me with this, like always, something starts me, was an article. And about a month ago, I had seen something about CO2 and beer, right? So, of course, the medias, the different medias, and most of them were local media. Now, I live near Buffalo, so of course we have a million types of beers, and we're going to look at this one. This is, let me see, can you see it? Big Dutch. Big Dutch, okay. Big Dutch. This is called Big Dutch Hay Burner. And for me, my friend sells these at the store I have. So here, make beer bread. So there's all kinds of different beer breads, And so I might keep the beer on hand if I do that, if I decide to do that, right? I used to like beer. I used to like Guinness, the dark stuff, Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so anyway, hi T-Bone, hi Reverend Scott, Rich Diana. Hi CJ, she likes my background. I have another one too I picked, but that was also in the same thing. That's the bubbly background. That's like I'm dying. I'm dying because I'm in a glass of beer. I'm in a glass of beer. Well, anyway, all right. So what got me started? Here we go. Lots of articles on beer. So here we go. I'm going to set it up and we're going to look at this. We're going to look at this. All right. So the first thing I have to bring to you is this article. Let me make sure I get it set up right. We're going to listen to just this little Milwaukee, Wisconsin channel. And they are climate change is brewing trouble in the beer industry. Now, like I said, it was all over the place. Last month was all CO2, but we're going to get there. We'll get to CO2. First, we're going to watch this little thing. Wisconsin's love of beer is unmatched, but the beer many people know and love is changing because of the climate, the changing climate. And hi, I see Jordan and Earl joined us, so this is cool, afternoon. Wow, 5 o'clock after I finish, I can still get outside and do shit, even though I could really whine a lot because everything hurts. I have a lot of stuff to do. And Jordan, Jordan Perry's dealing with trees. And Jordan, I feel your pain. You know that. We had our little back and forth about it. All right, let's see if this is going to work. Here we go, Milwaukee.
Love for beer is unmatched. According to the Brewers Association for Small and Independent Craft Brewers, in 2021, the 230 craft breweries in Wisconsin brewed 5.9 gallons of beer per adult over the age of 21.
It's a lot of beer.
Yeah.
But the beer we know and love is already changing because of the changing climate. I spoke with experts on the climate issues brewing in the beer industry.
It's Wisconsin's favorite fermented beverage.
Beer is one of these great things. I mean, flavor is one of these great things that is just universal.
Brewer and co-owner of Giant Jones Brewery, Jessica Jones.
A magic freezer hops, like they're either vacuum packed or vacuumed into jars,
has been serving up social suds in Madison since 2018.
Everybody has something unique to bring to the table when they're tasting, and doing that together just like breaks down all these other barriers that we stick in between each other.
A barrier brewing in the beer industry right now? the changing climate.
Beer is different in 2022 simply because globally climate change created poor conditions for growing barley and wheat. So protein content is up, which makes it really hard to make this beers that people are used to with the same color and body.
It all boils down to agriculture. Paul Mitchell, a professor of agriculture and applied economics at UW-Madison, says climate change is affecting the growing seasons for beer's main ingredients, barley and hops.
Agriculture and farming is at ground zero for climate change.
Mitchell is a member of the Wisconsin Initiative on Climate Change Impacts. He is researching ways to increase agriculture's resiliency to climate change through different breeding techniques.
You can breed things like frost tolerance or tolerance
GMO
to drought.
beer.
There's even diseases are changing because of the climate changing. Different plant diseases are problems, and they can breed resistance to diseases.
Mitchell admits implementing this research can take time.
It's expensive and slow. That's the thing. These things don't happen tomorrow.
Right now, he says, increasing severe weather events like droughts, floods, and wildfires have a biological effect on barley and hops.
Smoke from a fire can change how much sun intensity you get because it's more shaded. Well, that can change the flavor, even though it won't make it taste smoky, it doesn't, but it might change the kind of sunlight it gets.
These changes could cost you.
It's the supply chain disruptions. I think that kind of thing could become more apparent for certain specialized foods, especially if you have it tied to a very specific area of the country or the world.
Much like barley and hops, which are mostly grown in northwestern states.
Prices are going up. I've gotten price increases from almost all of my suppliers this year, at least 2, if not 4 times.
Giant Jones Brewery is committed to keeping the industry environmentally sustainable and to cutting greenhouse gas emissions by recycling water.
We're using that water twice.
Having organic certification.
What chemicals we can use are pre-approved for mitigating their environmental impacts.
And most recently, implementing a reusable and returnable bottle program.
What's the point of anything in a one-way package? And so we specifically are in glass bottles because they can be reused, where that's never an option with cans.
Jones is so committed to this program.
This is a manual process over here.
She peels hundreds of labels off bottles every day by hand.
Anyone who's ever had a kid with a sticker collection knows how difficult it is to continually be trying to get stickers off new places.
Jones admits this system of returning bottles will be something customers have to get used to.
Pull this out.
But it's not a new concept.
And I remember those recycled, those bottles had all beat up on the outside because they'd been through whatever machinery how many times. And so that's just the way it was. And we've gone away from that, and I don't see why we can't go back.
You know, and like the reasons that we walked away from these systems are just so silly, and we can make new choices.
Making new choices for a hoppy future.
What we're doing in this decade is going to have huge impacts on what the world's like in 20 or 30 years.
20 or 30 years.
Now, I spoke with other breweries in the area. Youngblood Beer Company in Madison is also concerned about climate change affecting the industry. Just like Giant Jones Brewing, they are also looking into ways to diversify their supply chains. So they're not only buying grain and hops from northwestern states.
Wisconsin's love for beer
All right,
is
I thought that was
unmatched,
pretty
according to the
good.
Brewers Association
Let me
for
shut it
small
off.
and independent.
Okay, I thought it was pretty good, actually, you know. And so basically it was, the article's the same thing. And yes, 20, 30 years, I know. But you see, normies say that. And, you know, I was accused of being a doom fetishist. A doom fetishist. Okay, that's a new one for me. Nobody's ever called me a doom fetishist before. So this article basically goes over exactly what they said there. So I thought it was kind of cute, you know, what they're trying to do. But I decided, okay, well, let's look up Big Dutch, which is the one that I had in my refrigerator because I live near Buffalo and I like to make beer bread. And I like to have a couple of beers in the house if people come over, which I don't really like that much, actually. Somebody actually came over before my show. And I'm going to tell you a little story about that before we go on. So through the old concerned citizens of Allegheny County, where we keep our eye on what's happening in the county I live in, and that they had a big thing back in the 80s called Bump the Dump, and they kept a nuclear radioactive waste dump out of the county. And, this dude I met through that, but he's an older man. He rides a motorcycle, but this guy must be, I swear to God, he's like 82 or whatever. Well, it's the third time he came over. Just comes over. He doesn't have a texting mechanism. He doesn't even know what my channel, does, whatever. So I'm very, very nice. Of course, my gate hasn't been built, which is getting built at the end of the driveway by the end of September. Anyway, not because of this dude, but I was telling him while I'm doing my show on beer. And I think he didn't really understand what kind of show I did, but I didn't know, I mean, I know him from whatever. So he says, oh, don't worry. Whatever happens, people always make beer. They will always make their own beer. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to grow all of their hops and their wheat in their backyard, but they'll always have their beer. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of cute, Another hurricane. Wait, he says, Jerome said, if I knew another Hurricane Sandy was going to hit New York State this November, would I move? No. What the fuck am I going to move for? Where am I going to go? I'm all the way in. Hurricane Sandy hit the coast. I worry, Jerome, about tornadoes all the time. But no, I'm not moving. Where am I going to go? There's nowhere to go. Okay, so anyway, this is the Big Dutch, and they have a lot of different kind of beer. And, it's Friday night. It's making me want to drink this instead of baked bread. All right, so, hey, burner. And so they have nothing on their business as usual. 7 hours ago, they had 3 beers dropping today at the tap room. Electro Positivity IPA and Oktoberfest and Devil Chicken DDH IPA. It's just like all these brands of cannabis. You want to grow pot. And it's like there's 4 zillion different kinds of seeds that have been, they're genetically engineered to be all different and stuff. It's like nothing is easy. So here's the beer. And again, I was just a Guinness drinker because when I would go out, one Guinness is a meal. It's a big beer. It's a lot of beer. So you could never drink. I could never drink more than 2. And plus, I was always out doing something that I couldn't drink and take a vehicle, right? So here's some more of my Big Dutch. Nothing about climate change, nothing about problems, nothing. Obviously, they're not having problems, even though our area had a drought. But I didn't go far enough. All right, so then I went in and I decided, okay, let's look at the welcome to the environmental beer cellar. Honey, I really don't, but let's see. Is it awkward to point out that Homo Colossus has very large issue with drug and alcohol? No. And that's just the alcohol industrial complex at work. Absolutely not. I'm 100% with you. And now it's the big cannabis complex where I was just saying with the seeds, it's so confusing. It's confusing. It's not like you just take some seeds and throw them in the grass. Well, you could, I suppose. Anyway, no, it's not awkward at all, Jordan. But it's not just the America. It's Homo Colossus everywhere. I mean, Russia and vodka and, where they're allowed to. I could jump forward. I have some interesting beers from around the world. But first, we're going to look at science behind brewing beer. I'm sure you're all out there, absolute brewing experts. I know that Bila was talking about the different beers where he lives. He said there's how many breweries? A lot where he lives. And Buffalo's full of them. So they must be getting their barley and hops and CO2 somewhere. So, all right. So this was interesting engineering. And I don't know if I'm going to show you another. It was so good though. Another video. This one was science may be the last one, and you're all a bunch of science geeks like me. The last thing on your mind while enjoying a cold one. But it's always good to know just what you're enjoying, how it was made. And science contributes to the type of beer, the different flavors, and how it is alcoholic. So let's learn ourselves some brewing. Now, it's up to you guys. Do you want me to read it, or should I play this YouTube video? I don't think I'll get it's older. Well, wait a minute. When's this from? That's from 2017. Oh, what the heck. Let's save my voice a little bit. Let's see if this will work. I'll play it. This is shorter than the other one. So here we go. Let's see if it works. This should work. Okay. What the hell?
Like enjoying a beer on a hot
oh no, it's long.
Or hate the taste of the
okay, I'll tell you what. If we get bored with it, you'll all give me tell me.
Creating it.
Let me make it louder.
In your mind when enjoying a cold one, but it's always good to know just how
We're
what
in
you're
beer
enjoying
school
was
today.
made. Science contributes to the type of beer, the different flavors, and how it's alcoholic. So let's learn the science behind brewing beer. First, we'll look at the ingredients. The main ingredients in any beer are water, malted grains, hops, and yeast.
Yeah, all
hops
the
are
problem
the flowers
things,
of the
water.
hop plant, which are used for flavoring. The only other uses for hops are in herbal medicine. With these 4 ingredients, you have everything you need to make beer, but the combinations and processes make all the difference.
Remember,
all of these
tell me
ingredients
if you
are boiled together for set amounts of time until the final mixture is filtered and sent to fermentation. Mineral contents in your water source can make a huge difference to the type of beer that you brew. Calcium and magnesium in your water, otherwise referred to as hardness, affect how the yeast grows and metabolizes the sugar in your brew. Cool. Bicarbonate, or HCO3, in your water also affects the pH of the beer during the fermentation process. If you're wanting to brew a beer that is more caramely or toasty, then you'll need to roast your grains more than usual. Darker roasted grains result in grains that have more degraded glucose molecules, ultimately resulting in a darker beer. Hops in beer are the main driver behind modern beer, and without them, our pints would be a little less enjoyable.
They got their beer picture the
same
place
act as a
I do.
that allows bubbles to be trapped in the head of the beer. If hops aren't added to the water, it would have much less surface tension, resulting in no head and a bitter taste. Hops can provide certain flavor notes to the beer, but their main effect is stabilizing the brew to allow our palate to taste all of the different bitter and sweet notes of the beer. Without hops, we would have a hard time tasting the flavors and ultimately enjoying the beer. Next, we move on to fermentation. Yeast is the big player in this process, and it's the most important element of making it alcoholic and carbonated. These little cells seek out glucose molecules in beer left by the grains in hops. By fermentation, the yeast converts the glucose into ethanol, or alcohol, and CO2, which is the carbonation. The specific chemical equation is what's shown right here. This is the general equation for fermentation, but specific products can be influenced by the type of yeast used in brewing. Ale yeasts are top fermenting, which means they can ferment at higher temperatures and ultimately produce more esters, which are organic compounds easily described as fats and oils. Lager yeasts are bottom fermenting, which means that they ferment at lower temperatures, producing a crispier taste. Wild yeasts are seldom used in the brewing process, but when they are, they produce a mixture of compounds that are more acidic and an acquired taste. These are rarely used because the exact flavor profile is harder to control from a brewing perspective. During the fermentation process, certain molecules can have different effects on the final flavor and feel of a beer. The length of carbon chains in alcohols, the amount of alcohol, the type of esters, residual sulfurs, and carbonation levels all contribute to the final flavor profile of the beer. Factors that can influence the fermentation and alcohol content of a beer are mineral content, temperature, pitch rate of the yeast, aeration, and length of the fermentation process. Brewers closely control all of these variables to get flavors that they want out of the final brew. Esters produced in the fermentation process can be predicted and controlled to produce certain flavors as well. Ethyl acetate is the most common ester in beer and smells
Is that what
like
they put
nail
in
polish
cars?
remover. In order to smell this ester, a high content needs to be present in the beer, and this usually isn't the case, which is why your beer doesn't smell like nail polish. Isoamyl acetate is another ester that smells of bananas. This ester is found in many Belgian and wheat beers. Ethyl butyrate gives a hint of passion fruit or pineapple to the beer, bringing up the sweeter notes. Finally, another ester that you probably have tasted or smelled is ethyl hexanoate, which results in an apple-like flavor added to the brew. As for the science behind popular beers, we can dig into some of the most popular beers to see just how precise every aspect of the brewing process is controlled and how it's made. Budweiser is a Pilsner malt, meaning a lighter golden beer with a sweet hint and medium amounts of hops. They use a type of yeast named S. ovarum and ferment their brew at 15 degrees Celsius for 2 weeks and add wood chips during the fermentation process to help the yeast grow.
Finally, we doing this in our
basements? Heavily filtered and force carbonated. Guinness, a darker beer, has dark roasted malted grains that give the color and light roasted malts that provide sugar for fermentation. They use a yeast named S. cerevisiae and ferment at 18 degrees Celsius for 2 or 3 weeks. The beer is then filtered and carbonated with nitrogen, which results in the creamy taste due to nitrogen creating smaller carbonation bubbles. Finally, another beer to look at is Rodenbach. It has lighter roasted malts and wheat with low to medium hops. They use wild yeast with spontaneous mixed cultures to ferment at 18 degrees Celsius for 2 to 3 weeks. The beer is then filtered and fermentation continues in the bottle to add natural carbonation. Smaller breweries will use natural carbonation in the brewing process because the end product can vary slightly and filtering is needed less. For larger breweries like Budweiser, filtering is a large aspect of their production, which removes any natural carbonation, so they must add in carbonation after the fact. For many, the taste of forced carbonation versus natural carbonation makes a huge difference in the beers that they enjoy. After all of this science is completed, you get a final brew. There's really no reason to store beer for long periods of time like other alcohols because the flavor profile is already completed at the time of brewing. In fact, most beers do have an expiration date of within a year, even shorter if natural carbonation is used. So be sure to drink up, but of course, responsibly.
All right. Let me get rid of this. Thanks. We did it. Yay, we did it. Let's go back to the science. So basically, that's all right. It was pretty good. I mean, it was interesting. And if I was paying attention more, I probably would have. But I think a lot of you know. And so, okay. Audio Pervert asks, how was beer brewed in ancient times without thermometers or electricity? So I do have more information on moving. This was talking about water and brewing and pop up the bubbles. There you go. Okay, so interesting engineering. And then we looked at that, and this was actually... I don't know why it got smaller either. This pisses me off. This was actually the actual study that was used. Let me see if I can make it bigger. It all of a sudden changed the size. Oh, that sucks. Well, it was the Nature study, and let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, here we go. Everything's changed. It was a weird day to do it. The power went off again also. So this is a recent article, decreases in global beer supply due to extreme drought and heat. Now, this is more current as far as why these articles are all coming out in the different medias, local medias, not bigger outlets. But this is actually, I'm going to have it in the show notes if you're interested in looking at all of the information, because I am certainly not reading this one. But it said it is the most popular alcoholic beverage in the world by volume consumed and yields of its main ingredient, barley declined sharply in periods of extreme drought and heat. Although the frequency and severity of drought and heat extremes increased substantially in range of future climate scenarios by 5 Earth system models, the vulnerability of beer supply to such extreme has never been assessed. So that's what they were doing, and probably like usual, this science made it into a lot of different writers and local. Here's another local news channel. Grain shortage has local brewers concerned, and everybody's got a little video. I don't even know how long this one was.
Saying economy is laid at the feet of the Russian war in Ukraine. It's
this one's saying
shortages that are even affecting some of the local beers that you drink. And KCRG TV9's Phil Reed was at
this is a short
Speed Brewery in Waterloo. He joins us live in the studio with their story.
So we're going to breweries all
Single
over.
Speed owner David Morgan says they use a lot of barley to make beer at their brewery in Waterloo. Ukraine is a big barley supplier, but they're not farming as much because of the war.
Oh, this is okay. Now this is talking about.
Morgan says grain prices went up last year because farmers didn't have a great grain harvest. He's being told to keep an eye on the situation in Ukraine, but he says the price spikes from it will take effect next year. Morgan explains why they're forced to pay the higher prices.
So here's about the money.
To be quite honest, in the world of barley, there aren't a lot of alternatives. You're just going to probably. Demand may be higher than what supply is, and then that means price is going to go up, and you're just going to have to find a way.
Morgan tells me he's hoping for a good growing season to make up for the lack of grain they are getting from Europe. He says the grain shortage, along with other supply chain issues, is forcing them to raise their prices in the fall. Now, they are trying to make it so it doesn't break the pocketbooks of their beer drinkers. Live in the studio,
everyone.
Phil Reed.
Okay, it's probably going to break the pocket of everybody. So this is in Iowa. And that's what they were talking about. All right. Remember, I went back into the beginning and I had showed you that now it's the hops and the grains, but a few weeks ago it was all CO2. All right. We're going to move on to just cover a little bit about that CO2 issue and what all these videos were talking about, which we're not watching another one. I want to show you an article. This was called Food Dive, and there are a couple, if it comes up. Food Dive, all right, carbon dioxide shortage threatens beer and food. Now, this was from August 29th, and then Forbes also had it. They had theirs beforehand. So, but theirs was talking about, is a beer shortage brewing in the USA? Forbes is, the business magazine, kind of right wing. Obviously, they drink beer. We have our Supreme Court beer justice on there, Kavanaugh. So anyway, they were talking about supply chains, and here it is, the CO2. So the soft drink industry relies on it to produce carbonated water and soda, as well as to dispense drinks via taps in bars and restaurants. Farmers leverage CO2 in greenhouses to promote growth of vegetables, flowers, and fruits. The food industry leverages CO2 to prevent bacteria and extend shelf lives of products such as packaged meats, baking products, and baby foods. Winemakers use CO2 in its frozen form, dry ice, to protect harvested grapes and slow down fermentation. So there we go. They and that was this other not that one, the other one that I had. Did I shut it? Well, I might have shut it. It was a little local one. But anyway, all right. So we'll go on with Forbes. And they were talking about the CO2 problem. And they said, okay, a poor North American barley harvest in 2021, combined with hot weather and a war in Europe, could also impact costs and production volumes in 2022. So identify alternative sources of supply. This is what they're telling the manufacturers. Looking for the raw materials, improve collaboration with partners. This is just the business shit. And I don't want to read it. You know what I want to talk about? and I'm going to talk about, because we're going to move on, we're going to talk about Pakistan. And what I decided to do is how I am linking this is that Pakistan has a beer company, and they have a tiny minority of legal drinkers, and it had something to celebrate in 2021. They launched a brewery. Well, guess where the brewery is? It's in the Balochistan province. So this is where the brewery is. So it's probably gone. I would say it might be gone. This is the province that the brewery was in. I'm not going to show the whole thing.
Underwater in recent weeks.
But because we've seen these. So we've seen these. We've seen everything. We know what's happening there. But this is the province where that brewery was. So I guess that Pakistan will not be having a brewery anymore. And their brewery it was Chinese. And when Audio Pervert was talking about how beer is so old, well, I decided that I wanted to look at beer around the world. And so I was looking at beer in Pakistan because, they have so much water now. And what I was showing you before was not this one. This was the flooding. So their brewery was there. See, the flooding in Pakistan is so bad that what looks like an entire new massive lake is now visible from space. So a third of their country has turned into a lake. A third of their people who couldn't give a shit about beer, really, now they're climate change refugees. And this is the flooding. Look at it. It's just insane. So when I think about the beer and I think about the privilege that we have and what people around the world are going through, it makes barley, hops, it makes all of it seem like so much bullshit when people have just gone through this mess and are continuing. I don't know. Hear it? That's not beer. That's water. And of course, it takes water to manufacture beer. So back to China. Beer is a very popular alcoholic beverage in China in terms of the total volume of the beverage consumed. About 30% of the total alcohol consumed is in the form of beer. 67% is in the form of spirits. Pretty cheap in China. So we'll go down, and there were some writers that were talking about it. But what I wanted to get to, and not about current, here we are. And where is Audio Pervert? So we're going to do this. Woo, yay. Okay, we'll hear the gong. Beer brewed in China 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. In May 2016, archaeologists announced that they had discovered evidence of a 5,000-year-old beer concoction. And the earliest known occurrence of barley in China at Majaya, a Yangshao archaeological site in China's Shaanxi province. The researchers found yellowish remains in wide mouth pots, funnels, and amphorae excavated from the site that suggested the vessels were used for beer brewing, filtration, and storage. So beer is something that human beings have been taking in one way or another, and not having to use stainless steel, completely wonderfully clean places to make beer. So according to Live Science, stoves found nearby were probably used to provide heat for mashing the grains, according to the archaeologists. The beer recipe used a variety of starchy grains, including barley, as well as tubers, which would have added starch for fermentation processes and sweetness to the flavor to add to the flavor of the beer. The researchers said the prehistoric brewery at the site consisted of ceramic pots, funnels, and stoves found in pits that date back to the Neolithic Stone Age. So listen, guys, make sure in your prepper repertoire that you have your pots to make your beer. Funnels and stoves. Make sure you have those. You're going to need it, right? Going to need them. So it's pretty interesting, actually. This PhD student and the lead author of the research, which was from 2016. It was in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The researcher said it was unclear when beer brewing began in China, but the residues from the 5,000-year-old Majaya artifacts represent the earliest known use of barley in the region by about 1,000 years. They also suggest that barley became a staple food there, the researchers noted. So Wang said that some Chinese scholars had suggested several years ago that young Shao funnels might have been used to make alcohol, but there had been no direct evidence until now. So in the summer of 2015, the Stanford researchers traveled to Shan and visited the Shaanxi Institute of Archaeology, where the artifacts from that site are stored. So this is pretty cool. So 5,000 years ago, in China, which I thought you guys would enjoy because, I actually didn't, I can look up, I did not go to Russia, but that would be another big continent, Russia and beer. Let's see, Russia, beer, another huge country, beer in Russia. And let's see what they do. Why not? Let's look at it. Should we go to Wikipedia? All right. We'll go to Wikipedia. It's the easiest thing. It's the first thing that came up. So in Russia, beer is tied with vodka as the most popular alcoholic drink in the country. So people like beer there. There are, no, this is way back. This is old. So we don't actually know now how many producers there are, but they had 561 beer producers in Russia. They had 40 large ones. Like, let's see if this is still in business. It's a big brewery, has history. I wonder what the history is of brewing beer in the Slavic countries. That would be interesting. I didn't do all of this research for the show because I still had things to do outside, but it's all pretty fascinating. Human beings like their beer. Let's see. Oldest known beer. And tell me, guys, do any of you actually make your own beer? Because I know when my brother first got married, I bought him a beer set. I know it was. I have to remember. Old OLD. See, my computer's not been wanting to be right all day. Oldest known beer, and that would take an N, wouldn't it? Right? Oldest known beer. Okay, let's see. You guys seem to be into it. It's pretty cool. Oldest known beer is a 13,000-year-old vintage. So this is what we need to learn how to do, okay? If you like beer, this is what you're going to have to do as part of your prepping repertoire. And not just buy a bunch of bottles. That's cheating. And that's hoarding. So beer was one of the very first drinks humans ever produced. And it may be much older than we previously thought. They thought it was 7,000. So now they found in the, and this was 2018, I think this was written, the Rekefet cave in Israel, which was once a grave site. They found that they found traces of starch and plant particles called phytolith, indicating grains were crushed and processed in a way that suggests beer making. So actually making alcohol, you can make beer. Everybody makes moonshine, but hey, so this one is showing us that it's 13,000 years ago. And this scientist, she was inspecting the ancient grain traces. Pretty cool. You know, your mind, you can find anything. You really can find anything, especially when things are so screwed up and you want a little diversion. But it's very hard to get diverted, obviously. So 13,000 years, guys. Oh my. So I think we're good with most of the beer research. I don't know what's going on in the world. Do I want to look at Jason Hickles, Pakistan? Do I really want to look at all these today when we're talking about beer? No. I think I'm going to just go back to me. If we have any questions, let's answer them. I kind of liked this. This afternoon thing. It was fun. Let's see what you guys are up to. Yeah, we went through the history of beer and that we have shortages and that things are not going to be easy. And people that like beer, you better learn how to make it somehow in your as a repertoire for prepping. And what did you say, Earl? Colorado Kool-Aid? Oh, Earl's here. We have to think of an environmental coffeehouse flush of the day. I would say probably the flush of the day. Oh my, where is my flush of the day? Oh, here it is. Okay. Guys, help me. Help me with something. What would we have to flush away that has to do with beer? Yeah, I know Gary Hoover. Yes, he does really good work, and we will. But if we start going into all that, it will be way too long of a show for me. Prep list. Okay, here we go. Beer, ganja, music, kinship, pets. What else? Yeah, right. What else? But we got to flush something away. Okay, we'll flush MAGA away. Scott says, let's flush MAGA away. Completely different than I thought, but you know what? Why not? That's what's on people's minds today, right? All right, here we go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay. We did it. We flushed MAGA away. They are really kind of obnoxious. Probably they like drinking beer. All right. Well, listen, I really enjoyed the show. And maybe I took your mind off some of the horrors that, my what I was called a doom fetishist channel, which because I'm not looking and, giving you all the solutions and the techno fixes. There's other channels that do that. And people want to insult me, fine. But you're not insulting me, you're insulting our whole channel. And we work hard. Anyway, I don't think I'm a fetishist for anything. Maybe just green beans. All right. Adios. See you. Don't forget, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I want to thank you all again because actually I got the computer and I've got the screen. And Bila is coming to visit. And he's going to help me set up a studio with what I have. And Sunday, I'm not sure. Dee Dee has to be about Sunday. Depends on what the weekend brings. I don't have anybody scheduled for an interview yet. Jennifer and I are definitely back Tuesday. But my life is very packed outside. But hi, Kinky. It was great to see you, too. But I try, do my best. And that's why you guys, you know what? You never know what you're going to get. So sign up for the Buy Me a Coffee, at least the mailing list, and you'll get an email. Hey, George. George has to come back. We have a time difference, so George will be back, but we're going to have to probably record it. Unless we do something like this. If George writes me and we do an afternoon, let's think about having George on. George Sacriletus is a wonderful person. Thank you, everyone. All right. Like, subscribe. I said thank you. I love all of you. And we are going to get the beer music back on. There we go. Yeah. Peace out, guys. I love you. And if you drink, don't ever drink and drive.